Our next speaker is our 19th Secretary of Transportation, the Honorable Pete Buttigieg.
Good morning, and thank you. Oh, that felt good. It is nice to have human voices reverberating in this atrium again, and very nice to see so many of you here in person and to know that more of you are joining us online. I want to express my appreciation to everybody who is part of commemorating National Maritime Day and honoring our mariners present and past. I want to thank Admiral Carl Schultz, Commandant of the Coast Guard, for his tremendous career of service to this nation, more than 39 years, and wishing him the very best on his well-earned retirement, fair winds, and following seas. We're fortunate to be joined today by Chairman Maffei, whose leadership is so important at this time with the FMC and everything that we face, Admiral Wetlaufer, so many other leaders from government, from labor, from industry, and from the community of veterans. Thank you for your service and your partnership. And most of all, thank you to our mariners. I want to express my gratitude to Deputy Administrator Lucinda Leslie for her tremendous stewardship of the Maritime Administration, where she has served as the acting administrator for the last 16 months during some of the biggest challenges to come before MARAD in decades. She has been a pleasure to work with and will continue to be in her capacity as deputy. Thank you so much, Lucinda. And let me echo the warm welcome that has been given to our recently confirmed U.S. Maritime Administrator, Admiral Ann Phillips, who you heard from a moment ago. From her naval service to her leadership on coastal infrastructure, she has championed America's maritime sector throughout her distinguished career, and we know that the Maritime Administration is in very good hands. We are a maritime nation. From the 3 ships that changed the fate of the American continents, to the naval base in Hawaii whose bombing catalyzed America's entry into World War II, to the ships carrying most of the things we all count on every day to our nation's ports. We have always been and will always be a nation whose destiny is connected to the sea. But as anyone who has served in or around the maritime sector knows, the story of our maritime life as a country is fundamentally about something beyond the steel of our ships or the acreage of our ports. It is about the character and the commitment of the people who are part of our waterborne commerce and defense. In peace and in war, our mariners are the reason food reaches families' tables around the country, the reason supplies reach our service members deployed around the world. For almost a century now, we have honored our mariners on this day. And today we especially honor the merchant mariners whose bravery helped us to win World War II. They delivered an average of 17 million pounds of cargo to our armed forces every hour. Often they did so without protection against the U-boats, the destroyers, and the aircraft that menaced the waters, and yet they kept making these critical deliveries. Our mariners during World War II lost their lives at a higher rate than any branch of the American military. And honoring that generation of mariners, a generation I should note that includes my own grandfather, is especially important now, as so much living memory is lost with the passing of those who experienced those events firsthand, and memory passes into history. Last Wednesday, World War II merchant mariners were presented with the Congressional Gold Medal in Statuary Hall, a richly deserved honor. And the tradition made famous and ennobled by that greatest generation is carried on today by those who meet this moment's missions on the seas. I've had the great honor of meeting a number of our current merchant mariners, and to all who are listening here and elsewhere, I want to express how grateful this country is for your service. Facing a once-in-a-century pandemic, you have adapted, you have kept sailing, you have kept America afloat. You delivered freight when supply chains around the world have been disrupted, delivered medical equipment when lives depended on it, have sailed amid climate disasters, bringing communities not only supplies, but hope. In recent months, our mariners have had ships underway in support of missions in Europe, bringing vital material in contested environments, again reminding the world of the importance of our merchant marine. To everyone here, representing different parts of the military, the government, and the private sector, we all represent part of the greater American maritime tradition, and you are shaping its future. And we all have a responsibility both to carry on the mission of the day and to ensure our maritime sector is strengthened for an uncertain future. Our administration is taking steps to do exactly that. With once-in-a-generation investments from President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, we are modernizing our ports with more than $2 billion, roughly equal to what DOT invested in port programs over the last 10 years combined, just in our port infrastructure development program outlook. We're strengthening and recapitalizing our ready reserve force. We're upholding the Jones Act, which President Biden called the cornerstone of our domestic maritime industry. And as reflected in the theme for today, we are pushing forward meaningful improvements around culture, climate, and commitment to mariners. On culture, we are addressing what for too long was an open secret in the maritime industry: sexual assault and sexual harassment. Alongside other actions, MARAD has launched the initiative Every Mariner Builds a Respectful Culture, or EMBARK. Under this unprecedented program, before U.S. Merchant Marine Academy cadets set out for their sea year, carriers must adopt policies that help to prevent sexual assault and harassment, support survivors, and build a culture of accountability. We now have 9 carriers enrolled in our EMBARK program, and we encourage every eligible carrier to enroll as soon as possible. On climate, we're helping our ports transition to modern, electric-powered equipment that will help us to move more goods without automatically incurring an associated increase in pollution and emissions. And we're working with our partner countries and with the International Maritime Organization to launch green shipping corridors and other global efforts to deal with this global threat to lives and livelihoods, one that is particularly destructive and dangerous to those who live or work on, near, or around the waters of the world. And with regard to our commitment to mariners, last year we recognized the first ever Centers of Excellence for Domestic Maritime Workforce Training and Education, expanding our collaboration with those institutions. And we are working to address the effects on mental health that mariners have experienced during this pandemic. We've been distributing resources at no cost, such as helplines and information on chaplain and counseling services, and we've been working with many of you to tackle this together, because so much more work will be needed to make good on this shared commitment. Which leads to my final point. Our mission and the lasting changes that we all seek depend on all of us working together. They depend on you. And I want to thank you for the actions you've already taken. On this Maritime Day, together, we recommit to our mariners, past, present, and future. We commit ourselves to honoring their stories, to supporting their missions, and to strengthening a sector that is at the very heart of our national security, our economic strength, and our American character. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for your leadership. You have enumerated the initiatives on which we've been working to support culture change, to advance climate protection, and of course, to ensure that our mariners have been supported through the unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. None of this would have been possible without your leadership and that of the Deputy Secretary. Whenever MARAD was stretched, the department was always there. Thank you so much. Thank you.